A prime minister vanished from his own capital in the middle of the night, and the country didn't officially find him for 6 days. A head of state got overthrown while he was at a summit in another country, smiling for cameras. And one president? His worst day in office was his own inauguration. He did it to himself, live, on camera. Every single person who has ruled Nigeria has had one day, one terrible, no good, who sent me day that changed everything. Today, I'm opening all 16 files. I'm the eagle from the coat of arms, codename Agent 1. I've guarded every Nigerian leader since 1960. I've survived every coup, and my resignation letter has been rejected 11 times. Stay with me, because one of these leaders literally slept through his own worst day, and you will not guess which one. Let's start where all the wahala began. File 1. Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, Nigeria's first and only Prime Minister. They called him the golden voice of Africa, because when this man spoke, even the British sat up straight. A humble teacher from Bauchi, who ended up running the biggest country on the continent. No small promotion. His worst day, January 15, 1966. While Lagos was sleeping, a group of young army majors decided that democracy was taking too long. Soldiers arrived at the Prime Minister's residence in the middle of the night and took him. No announcement, no trial, nothing. The Prime Minister of Nigeria simply vanished. For 6 whole days, nobody officially knew where he was. The government was releasing statements like, "The PM is fine," while quietly panicking like a student who lost his exam slip. Then they found him by a roadside outside Lagos. The golden voice was gone. That night broke something in Nigeria. I filed my first resignation letter the next morning. Rejected. Eagles don't resign, Agent 1. And the man who took over, his own worst day was already loading. File 2. Major General Johnson Agui Ironsi, the army chief who inherited the crisis. Nigeria's first military head of state. Big man, big cigar, big problems. His first mistake came in May 1966. Decree number 34, which scrapped the regions and unified everything under one central government. On paper, organization. To half the country, provocation. Tension entered the group chat and never left. His worst day, July 29, 1966. Barely 6 months into the job, he was in Ibadan on a nationwide tour, staying at Government House as the guest of Colonel Fajuyi. That night, soldiers came for a rematch of January's coup. Colonel Fajuyi was reportedly given the option to step aside. The visitors only wanted his guest. Fajuyi refused to abandon him. Host and guest were taken together, and neither came back. 6 months in office, the man had barely finished unpacking. 2 heads of state gone in 1 year, and I'd only been on the job for 6 years. My performance review was looking terrible, but while Nigeria was falling apart, the next file landed on a 31-year-old who suddenly had the hardest job in Africa. File 3. General Yakubu Gowon, 31 years old when they handed him Nigeria. 31. At 31, some of us are still collecting transport money from our parents. This man was handed a country that was actively on fire, and it got worse. The Civil War broke out in 1967 and ran for 3 brutal years. When it ended in 1970, Gowon declared, "No victor, no vanquished," which remains one of the classiest post-war statements ever made anywhere. Then the oil money started flowing, and for a moment, Nigeria was balling. So what was his worst day? July 29, 1975. 9 years to the exact day he took power. Gowon was in Kampala, Uganda at the OAU summit, looking sharp, taking photos with fellow presidents. Meanwhile, back home, his colleagues quietly changed the locks. He found out he'd been overthrown the way you find out about fuel price increase, through the radio. And what did the man do? No war, no drama. He said alright, moved to England and enrolled at university for a PhD. Overthrown on Tuesday, doing coursework by October. Legend behavior. Speaking of legends, the next file hurts me to open. File 4. General Murtala Muhammad, 200 days in office, that's all. And somehow his face is on the 20 naira notes and the Lagos airport carries his name. What did he do in 200 days? Everything. He shook up the civil service, set a firm date to hand power back to civilians, and approved a brand new capital city called Abuja. The man moved like someone whose phone battery was on 2%. Here's the thing about Murtala. He refused long convoys and sirens. He wanted to sit in traffic like a regular Lagosian. I begged him, "Oga, sir, at least one escort." He said the people's leader should not hide from the people. February 13, 1976, his black Mercedes was crawling through Lagos traffic on a Friday morning when soldiers from a failed coup attempt, led by Lieutenant Colonel Dimka, opened fire. Nigeria lost him right there. In the same traffic, he refused to escape. 200 days and 50 years later, we still talk about him every week. Resignation letter number 3 went in that afternoon. Rejected. And the man who had to replace him, his name was on the plotters list too. File 5. General Olusegun Obasanjo. Mark this face very well. This file returns later. They always return. His worst day was the same day as Murtala's, February 13th, 1976. Because while the country was mourning, Obasanjo was being hunted. His name was on Dimka's hit list, right under his bosses. The coup failed, the dust settled, and the military council turned to Obasanjo and said, "Congratulations, you're the new head of state." By most accounts, the man did not want it. Imagine being promoted specifically because your boss was assassinated and you were next on the list. That's not a promotion, that's a threat with benefits. But give him this, he kept Murtala's promise. In 1979, Obasanjo handed power to an elected civilian government and retired to his farm. An African military ruler voluntarily handing over power in the 70s. That was rarer than stable electricity. And by the way, if you think the files so far have been rough, I need you to understand something. We haven't even reached the 80s yet. The coups get smoother, the sunglasses get darker, and one man in this cabinet is about to get overthrown so politely it could win an award for customer service. Stay with me. The civilian Obasanjo handed over to was a gentleman from Sokoto, and gentlemen in Nigerian politics. Let's just open the file. File 6. President Shehu Shagari, Nigeria's first executive president, elected in 1979. A calm, soft-spoken man who honestly might have been too polite for the job. During his time, oil prices crashed, the economy entered serious hardship, and the 1983 elections were, let's say, mathematically creative. Votes were counted in places where voting barely happened. Now, remember I told you one leader slept through his worst day. Bring your chair closer. December 31st, 1983, New Year's Eve. Nigerians were ironing their church clothes and marinating their meat. President Shagari went to bed as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. While he slept, soldiers moved on key targets across the country. In the early hours of the morning, a brigadier came on the radio and announced that the government was dismissed. Shagari basically woke up unemployed. The name of the radio announcer, Brigadier Sani Abacha. Write that name down. Keep it somewhere safe. This is called foreshadowing. And the man the coup installed, a tall, strict general whose face has never met a smile. File 7. Major General Muhammadu Buhari, version 1. He arrived in 1984 with the war against indiscipline. Suddenly, Nigerians were forming straight lines at bus stops. Civil servants who came late were doing frog jumps outside their offices. Grown men, frog jumps. As an eagle, watching humans jump like frogs was the highlight of my entire career. But the economy stayed hard. The detention cells filled up with politicians and journalists. And behind the scenes, his own inner circle was cooking something. August 27th, 1985. During the quiet of the Salah holiday season, his colleagues executed the smoothest palace coup in Nigerian history. No gunfire, no chaos. Buhari was simply arrested and detained for over 3 years, removed by officers he trusted. The mastermind, a smiling, gap-toothed general the streets would come to call Maradona. Mark Buhari's face too, by the way. This file also returns. I know. This cabinet recycles more than it retires. Now, Maradona himself, the evil genius file. Deep breath. File 8. General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, ABB. Named after the footballer Maradona because he dribbled everybody. Left, right, politicians, journalists, ME, everybody collected dribble. ABB ran Nigeria for 8 years and kept promising to hand over to democracy. The transition timetable changed so many times it needed its own transition. Then, June 12, 1993, Nigeria held what is still called the freest and fairest election in its history. MKO Abiola was cruising to victory across regional and religious lines. For one shining moment, Nigeria actually agreed on something. Then came June 23, 1993, the annulment. IBB cancelled the entire election. Just cancelled it. No winner. Thank you. Everybody go home. The country erupted. Strikes, protests, pressure from inside and outside, until by August, Maradona finally dribbled himself out of the stadium and, in his own words, stepped aside. 16 files in this cabinet, and this is the only worst day that was fully self-inflicted, handwritten, and personally delivered. You cannot even blame village people. Quick score check, because we're halfway through the cabinet. That's 2 leaders assassinated, 3 overthrown, 1 dribbled out by his own hands, and the remaining files somehow get wilder. Coming up, the shortest government in Nigerian history, a mystery that Nigerians still argue about at every barbershop, and the president who disappeared without leaving the country a note. But first, IBB handed the seat to an interim businessman. Sweetest man alive, worst timing alive. File 9, Chief Ernest Shonakan, the interim president, a respected boardroom giant who has handed Nigeria the way you hand someone a phone that is already falling. Please, hold it. He lasted 83 days. 83. There are open tabs on my browser older than that administration. His worst day, November 17, 1993. The defense minister walked into his office for a quiet chat. That minister, Sani Abacha, the same man who announced the 1983 coup on the radio. I told you to write the name down. 10 years after announcing someone else's coup, Abacha finally arranged his own. And it was the politest coup in African history. No soldiers surrounding the building, no martial music. Just a suggestion, firmly seasoned, that the chief should resign. The chief resigned. No gunshots, just vibes and paperwork. Even my resignation letters have more drama. Speaking of which, number 5 went in that same evening. Rejected. Eagles don't resign, Agent 1. The quiet man from the radio now had the full microphone. File 10. General Sani Abacha. Dark goggles. Never smiled in public. Rarely spoke. Ruled Nigeria for 5 years with fear as official policy. Let me be straight with you. This file has real darkness in it. Activists jailed. Ken Saro-Wiwa executed. Opponents exiled or worse. And billions quietly walking out of the treasury. Even I, a literal secret agent, was scared of this man's calendar. By 1998, Abacha had decided it was time to become a civilian president, his way. All 5 registered political parties adopted him as their sole candidate. 5 parties, 1 candidate. Even the ballot paper was confused. Then came June 8, 1998. Abacha died suddenly inside Aso Rock. Official cause, heart attack. Unofficial cause. My DMs are still full of theories till today. The Apple story. The other stories, I cannot confirm any of them. I was stationed outside the villa that morning, and an eagle only reports what he sees. What I can confirm, Nigerians poured into the streets that day, and it was not to mourn. The general who took over inherited exactly one job: land this plane immediately. File 11, General Abdul Salami Abubakar, the transition man. He took power and immediately announced he was leaving. The first Nigerian leader whose entire agenda was get me out of here. Honestly, relatable. His worst day came exactly 1 month in, July 7th, 1998. MKO Abiola, the winner of June 12th, who had spent 4 years in detention for the crime of winning, was finally close to release. He was in a meeting with visiting American diplomats when he suddenly fell ill. Hours later, Abiola was dead, in custody, weeks before freedom. The country exploded in grief and rage. Riots in the southwest. Suspicion everywhere. The autopsy said heart disease. The streets said otherwise. Abdul Salami had one job: land the plane. And 30 days in, both engines caught fire over the runway. Somehow, he still landed it. On May 29, 1999, he handed power to an elected civilian and left on schedule 11 months after taking office. And the civilian collecting the handover? Oh, you already know this face. File 12, Olusegun Obasanjo. Again, I told you the files come back. and fresh from prison no less. Yes, prison. Abacha had locked him up in 1995 over an alleged coup plot. These files keep crossing each other like Danfo drivers at Ojuelegba. Obasanjo went from inmate to president-elect in about 14 months. Only in Nigeria, round 2 had real wins. Debt relief, the EFCC, and GSM phones. Because before 1999, calling your cousin in the village was a full pilgrimage. But by 2006, the whispers grew loud. The constitution says 2 terms, and some people around Oga wanted a 3rd. His worst day, May 16, 2006. The 3rd term amendment reached the Senate floor, carried live on national television. Nigerians gathered around TVs like it was a cup final, and the Senate killed it. Dead, buried, in front of the whole country. The man survived Dimka's hit list. He survived Abacha's prison, but he could not survive the Nigerian Senate. Somewhere in the villa that evening, a plate of jollof went cold. In 2007, he handed over to a gentleman so calm. His worst day made almost no noise at all. File 13, President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, the servant leader, the first Nigerian president to publicly declare his assets. He openly admitted that his own election had problems, his own election, and set up electoral reform to fix it. Who does that? A genuinely modest man in a job that eats modest men for breakfast. His worst day wasn't a coup or a scandal. It was November 23rd, 2009, the day his health took the wheel. He was flown to Saudi Arabia for urgent treatment, and Nigeria simply didn't see him again. No formal handover, no acting president. For months, the seat of power was neither empty nor occupied. The country was running on vibes and speculation. It took until February 2010 for the National Assembly to invoke the famous doctrine of necessity and make his vice president acting president. Yar'Adua eventually came home, but he never recovered, and by May 2010 he was gone. No jokes on this one from me. Some files you just close gently and salute. His vice, a quiet zoologist from Bayelsa who once had no shoe, now had the biggest shoes in Africa. File 14, President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. The famous I had no shoes story, from a fisherman's son to the villa. His first name is literally Goodluck, and the man speed ran the whole ladder. Deputy governor, governor, vice president, acting president, president, every position, one owner. But his worst day is a heavy one, so I'm putting the jokes down. April 14th, 2014. In the morning, a bomb went off at a crowded bus station in Nyanya near Abuja, killing dozens of commuters. That same night, in Chibok, Borno State, Boko Haram entered the school and took 276 schoolgirls, 276 children, taken in one night. The response was slow, confused statements, days of hesitation, while #BringBackOurGirls traveled around the entire world. Whatever came afterwards, that day marked his presidency permanently. Some of those girls have never come home. In 2015, Jonathan lost his re-election bid and conceded before final results, saying his ambition was not worth the blood of any Nigerian. The irony of this file, his best day was the day he lost. And who beat him? File 7, yes, him. File 15, Muhammadu Buhari, again. The general the coup removed in 1985 came back through the ballot box 30 years later on his 4th attempt. Say what you want about the man, he does not know how to quit. Round 2 had queues again, this time for fuel and later for new Naira notes. But his worst day is another heavy file. October 20th, 2020. For nearly 2 weeks, young Nigerians had led the EndSARS protest against police brutality. Peaceful, organized, historic. That evening, at the Lekki toll gate in Lagos, protesters sat on the ground, held the flag, and sang the anthem. Then the lights went off, soldiers arrived, and shooting began. Exactly what happened that night is still disputed. What it did to the bond between Nigerian youth and the Nigerian state is not. It's a wound the country is still dressing. I was on that toll gate that night. Some things an eagle cannot unsee, and some files I keep open on purpose, so that nobody quietly archives them. In 2023, Buhari handed over and went home to Dora. The man collecting the baton had waited his whole life for it. And his worst day arrived faster than anybody else's in this entire cabinet. File 16. President Bola Tinubu, the political godfather. Decades of building structures and making kings in Lagos. And then finally, in 2023, "It's my turn" became, it was actually his turn. Now, every other leader in this cabinet had to wait for their worst day. A coup here, a crisis there. Tinubu? He speedran it. His worst day in office was day 1, May 29th, 2023, Inauguration Day, Eagle Square. The man is reading his speech. Everything is going smoothly. And then he looks up from the script and adds 4 words. Fuel subsidy is gone. 4 words. Off script. By afternoon, fuel queues had swallowed every filling station in the country. Prices tripled. Transport fares doubled before he even finished shaking hands. Economists are still debating whether it was necessary surgery or surgery without anesthesia, but nobody debates the timing. 16 leaders in this cabinet, and only one managed to have his worst day before his first day even ended. His file is still being written. I'm still on duty. Resignation letter number 11 is already drafted, and honestly, at this point I don't know why I bother. So, 16 files, 16 terrible days. But which one was the worst? People will argue for June 12th, for Lekki, for Chibok. Strong cases, all of them. But Agent 1's official ruling is January 15th, 1966. Because look closely at this cabinet. The counter-coup, the civil war, the decades of soldiers treating the villa like a rotating buffet. Almost every file in here is a descendant of that one night. That was the night Nigeria learned that power could be taken instead of given. We have been unlearning it ever since. Drop your own ranking in the comments. I read everything. I'm a surveillance eagle. It is literally my job. And if you enjoyed this briefing, my next file is already on your screen. Every failed Nigerian coup explained. A coup announced from a radio station the plotters forgot to secure. A coup that collapsed before breakfast. And the single phone call that saved an entire government. It's messier than this file, and this file had 16 disasters inside it. Click it and subscribe while you're there. Declassification happens weekly. Agent 1 signing off. Oga, sir.